Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us Across the Fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Like me, I'm sure many of you have a favorite vegetable or berry farm you visit throughout the year. Combined, there are over 1,100 of these farms in Vermont, and thanks to season extension strategies like high tunnels, veggie and berry farms are growing businesses. If they want to continue expanding, they need to protect and improve natural resources. Across the Fence recently visited a farm in Orange County to harvest some ideas for protecting water and improving soil. Keith Silva has our story.
The harvest is coming to an end at Route 5 Farm.
Yeah, slim pickings out here in the basil. This is the final pick, and we're gonna make pesto out of it. We were just looking at the forecast and feeling like we should probably...
The farm is owned and operated by Daniel Allen and Ben Dana. The couple started farming in Burlington before buying this 38-acre farm in Fairlee about a decade ago. The majority of their crops are marketed through the farm CSA. What brought them here is what's been attracting people to this area for thousands of years.
I guess the primary reason is the soils. We're right along the Connecticut River. So this valley has really fertile soil and excellent sandy loam for vegetable production.
As organic farmers, we're always thinking about the soil first. There's been a few things that I've had to dig a hole into the ground. And it sounds silly, but you get in there and you start seeing the horizons of the soil. Everything that's living is relying on the sun and the 6 inches of soil.
The cropland was already certified organic when the property was purchased. As stewards of the land, Dana and Allen have continued to build on that legacy.
Organic farming requires a lot of patience, and it's a slow process, and it's so we're constantly making observations, and we soil test every year so we can observe changes as they are happening.
Once a crop comes out of the ground, a cover crop goes in. This constant cultivation ensures the farm's economic and ecological future.
Anything we put down costs us money, right? Either if it's a cover crop or if it's a nutrient that we have to add, an amendment. We want to get it to a plant so that we can grow a good plant rather than having it just wash into the river. That's the economic version of it. The ecological version is that, you don't want to pollute where you live. So.
And that includes the Connecticut River that flows alongside the farm.
We can see that our actions have a direct impact on the water quality and for whoever is downriver. So there's about 8 acres along the river that we don't ever cultivate. It's all just sort of left wild. So that buffer is sort of preventing erosion into the directly into the river. We've learned that buffer is really what protects water quality.
What about across the street? How'd those cover crops work out?
To sustainably get the most out of the soil, Dana and Allen work with UVM Extension Vegetable Nutrient Management Specialist, Becky Madden.
They are growing really high value crops on a small amount of land, and they have a lot riding on that. They've got 9 full-time employees. They have a lot of infrastructure. They have a lot that's like hinging on good nutrient management. If they don't get that right and they don't get good crops, it all kind of goes away. So I think the ecological piece underpins a lot of this in terms of making the farm system work.
Madden works with farmers to develop a nutrient management plan. Data is put into a spreadsheet, which then acts like a kind of calculator to understand the soil's nutrient needs.
People could, on their own, take soil test information and plug it into the calculator and understand the credits they're receiving from organic matter, cover crops, previous additions of manure and compost. They run it through the calculator, and then we talk about that. We look at that together, and then we work with the other pieces of the puzzle, like what particular amendments they're going to use, how much it costs, where they're going to get it, and then the cover cropping piece is really important.
It helps you be more efficient with if you are going to add amendments, you're going to not put 150 pounds if you already have a credit from your cover crop of 75 pounds or whatever. That leads to not having it run off.
This kind of groundwork, put in by Madden and other UVM extension specialists, has led to success at Route 5 Farm.
Our farm wouldn't be our farm, it wouldn't be as good without Extension.
UVM Extension brings us together, and they know the state so well. They know other farms. They have so much like really relevant experience compared to, you search the web and you might get information about California or just some other place. That just, the things that we do are so specific to this place that it helps to have these folks that know it so well.
Epically. I wouldn't take much of the credit for their successes in terms of building soil health. I think bringing in the expert is really just to have a little bit of extra support. I think a big role for Extension is to learn from farmers and also to do some of the legwork that they don't have the time and headspace to do. So they ask the more intelligent questions about their land, and I can do a little bit of legwork to even from sourcing cover crop seed or just figuring out rates of things. It's a really generative community, and I think Extension is really the glue in spitting back out resources to them.
Roots are what support and nourish plants. A similar synergy of expert advice and caring for the land is what's led to success down at Route 5 Farm. In Fairlee, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.
Thank you, Keith. And joining me via Zoom to talk some more about Vermont's vegetable and berry industry is Becky Madden. Thank you so much for joining us, Becky.
Hi, Fran. Thanks for having me.
That's such a
It's a
great
pleasure to be
story. Yeah, it's wonderful that you're here. So about how many acres are in vegetable and berry production in Vermont, and what's the impact of these businesses on our state?
Yeah, it's a really exciting industry that's been growing over the past several decades. There's, according to the 2017 Ag Census, which is the best data we have to work with, there's 4,000 acres in production in vegetable and berries in Vermont, generating about $33 million in annual revenue or annual sales. And this translates to about $7,000 gross revenue per acre. We estimate there's about 700 vegetable and berry farms in the state.
Wow, it's terrific. Well, and we're talking about fairly small farms here. Route 5 Farm, which was featured in the video, farms on about 10 acres. How are they getting so much production out of so little acreage?
It's a great question, and it's an exciting question, I think. Ben and Danielle and their team have just this amazing capacity, I think, to pay attention to the really big picture questions like soil health and water quality, as well as the minutia and day-to-day details of running an efficient farm and workplace. They do a lot of great record keeping, so I know they're constantly engaged in this iterative process of checking their records and their planning spreadsheets, and then how much they actually yielded and ultimately made economically over the course of the season. But I think what's really stands out to me, and I think they spoke very eloquently to in the story, is how at the core of all of their farming practices is a deep care for the earth and for the planet and for their soil health and water quality. And that's a really driving force. I think those are the questions that keep them up at night. And they're very committed to their organic practices.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's really the central piece of what makes them such great farmers.
I love the thought of the horizon of the soil and checking that out. It's just beautiful. So we're also seeing a lot of what are referred to as high tunnels on vegetable farms. What are they, and how are farmers using them?
So high tunnels are essentially greenhouses without a permanent foundation. They're plastic covered growing structures. Most people are growing straight into the ground in the soil in a high tunnel, not using heat as a general rule. And these serve a lot of functions, especially in our climate. They protect crops from rain, and so farmers can control irrigation and water delivery right to the plants. Mm-hmm. They protecting the crops from the rain reduces disease, inoculum. So the leaves are drier over the course of a season. If you've ever grown a garden tomato in the field, you know how quickly they fold to disease. High tunnels also allow growers to grow vertically, so there's a lot more intensity of crop production. You can generate, our estimates for high tunnel tomatoes is that you yield about 3 pounds per square foot, and most growers sell those tomatoes for about $3 per pound. This translates to about $9 per square foot in a tunnel. And this is not census data because the tunnels are just going up, as you've seen on the landscape, pretty rapidly. There's an NRCS grant program that funds them. but we have about 1.5 million square feet in tunnels in Vermont, which translates to about $13.5 million in revenue. And if you go back to that number from the census of $33 million or whatever, across the whole vegetable farm industry, the high tunnels are really a significant part of this piece of this puzzle.
Absolutely. And then Becky, you can also grow kind of crops that are out of the ordinary for Vermont as quickly.
Yeah, that's a fun one. Ben and Danielle are growing ginger and turmeric, and quite successfully. They're economically viable crops in this climate. And I'd also say that tunnels are a climate resiliency plan. They are really helping people buffer themselves against the extremes of climate.
So before we go, just talk quickly about the Vermont Vegetable and Berry Growers Association and how that helps.
It's a great group. It's been around since 1976 with the mission of supporting farms with an economic, environmental, and social mission. And it's a sharing group. There's a listserv where people email all sorts of questions, anything from selling something to a horticultural question. And the culture of growers in Vermont is just quite phenomenal with the way folks trade information, share, and support each other. Ben and Danielle have really tapped into that. So Extension facilitates some of that, but I really give the growers tons of credit for sharing. The Veg and Berry Growers Association offers folks membership into this listserv, plus they can enroll in the CAPS, the produce safety program that Hans Estrin runs, and a new website we've built that has the CAPS program, as well as a soil health website that I've been working on.
Great, and you hold an annual association meeting. Do you have a plan for 2022?
We're working on it. Our board meets in November. My sense is it'll probably be virtual.
Fantastic. To learn more about this, you can go to the Vermont Vegetable and Berry Growers Association, that is. You can visit UVM's commercial horticulture page. The address is on your screen. Thank you so much for joining us. You'll find the information about membership in the Growers Association, along with resources on high tunnels and greenhouse production that we talked about. Becky, thank you so much for joining us and letting us know some of the innovations that are happening out there.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for a great program.
Okay, thanks a lot. Take care. And thank you for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Stay well.